guys, welcome back to another video. So over the weekend, there wasn't too much big news. I mean, there usually isn't any breaking news over the weekend. The news cycle is quiet, but there was some stuff for the Xbox Activision Blizzard acquisition. Nothing big, but just some interesting stuff for what Microsoft has offered to the European Commission in terms of remedies, a summary of that and what they are expecting these remedies to do. And this is a summary here from IDAS, who has been doing summaries throughout the entire process of this deal, of everything that has been going on. And here's what IDAS says. My guess is that Microsoft is offering a global remedy package. It's the normal way in cross-border mergers. So the European Commission, CMA, and the FTC, if they have a chance, will be offered almost the same remedies. In any case, if the European Commission is not concerned about the console market, including subscription services, and Microsoft is not offering anything in that sense, that could potentially open the door to small differences in the remedy package. For example, that Call of Duty is only available on PlayStation Plus in UK, but not in Europe, where only Game Pass would have it. Something similar could happen in the United States depending on how Microsoft deals with the FTC going to court or through a consent decree. And of course, only if they have the chance to do so. Anyway, things are going to get interesting. Now, one of the things we talked about last week was the actual remedy submission from Microsoft to the European Commission. And from what we can understand was that it was mainly or only based on cloud gaming. There wasn't any specific remedies in there for releasing games and Call of Duty specifically on other consoles, which would mean releasing it on PlayStation. Now, with cloud gaming remedies, it would mean that they would release Call of Duty on PlayStation Plus, as well as all of the other cloud gaming deals that they have made, including the NVIDIA GeForce Now deal and the Boosteroid and the Ubisoft deal. And then when you think about consoles, I mean, Microsoft has already come out and said that they will release Call of Duty natively on the Nintendo Switch. So that is something I think that they still will do, whether that's in the remedies package or not. But I guess it gives them more leeway to look into this game and see how the development is going. And if it is just too difficult to get the game on the current Nintendo Switch, just maybe release a cloud version of it. Not sure about that. But at the end of the day, it seems like with the European Commission, they've left out anything about consoles, which has people saying, hey, PlayStation is going to get left behind with all this stuff because they are refusing to accept any deals with Microsoft, which is something, I mean, it would be hilarious to see happen. Not because I don't want PlayStation gamers to get Call of Duty or Activision, but it would just be hilarious because of the saga that has happened with this deal and the pushback from Sony and the real console wars going on right in front of our eyes. I don't think we've ever seen anything like this before. So that will be something to keep your eye on going forward. And depending on what happens with the CMA and the FTC, IDAS here saying they may be offering a global remedy package, which is normal with cross-border deals and all that type of stuff. But maybe they're going to have to add some things in there for the CMA and for the FTC for them to be happy with remedies and to push the deal through. So we'll see what happens. Especially, I think the CMA is going to be the most difficult one for Microsoft to get approved. I think the FTC is kind of just posturing personally. I don't actually know, but this is just my speculation that it's Lena Khan. We've seen a lot of people leave the FTC now because of Lena Khan, and they're trying to be this big, tough organization that's showing that these big corporations that they aren't to mess with. And I feel like that's what's going on right now between the FTC and what's going on with this deal. And we'll see if it goes all the way to court. But I feel like at the end of the day, if the European Commission, the CMA do approve this deal, they'll come to an agreement with the FTC. But IDAS continues on here and says it's a quote tweet here. It says the MLEX report, if correct, is basically the opposite of the equity report on a couple of weeks again. Very weird. Someone correct this if I am wrong regarding the equity report article. So one thing to keep in mind here, the equity report and the MLEX are two websites. They're market insight websites. There's a subscription paywall to get in to actually read these things. And pretty much IDAS, from what I understand, is literally just going in and looking at these reports that have been published to MLEX and then summarizing them here on Reset Era. It isn't any sort of information that IS has from actually being involved with this deal or anything like that, but just literally going into MLEX, taking that information and putting it here on Reset Era, from what I understand as to what is happening every time IDAS makes a post. And IDAS has this to that claim. He says, yes, I thought the same. The discrepancy is quite big right now. I would trust MLEX more than equity report. That's one thing to keep in mind. And secondly, someone writes here, but the CMA is also worried about consoles, isn't it? I would think that having the 10-year deal on the console side is the bare minimum for it to have a chance to pass there. And IDS responds, I was thinking about something like Minecraft Dungeons, where the game is available on everything, full parity, and it comes to PS Plus, but 12 to 18 months later. Meanwhile, Game Pass is having it on day one. Maybe Microsoft is starting to think about something similar to Call of Duty in Europe, but not the UK. If the European Commission is not concerned about the console market anymore, the Remedies package would be very similar, but slightly different. In any case, Microsoft already offered Call of Duty on PlayStation Plus to the FTC in December of 2022. So that's very important. They've already offered Call of Duty PS Plus to the FTC, and they still, they still have that chance to come to an agreement before they head to court. Then the most likely scenario is that they'll offer exactly the same remedies to everyone. But that was in December, and the report from MLEC says that the remedies offered to the European Commission are only about cloud gaming. So who knows? If they're seeing a legal chance to act this way, maybe Microsoft is having second thoughts about the 100% parity thing and is thinking about differences by region. And that would be a turn for sure if that is to occur, if Microsoft is looking at all of the information that is coming out and their chances of these deals going through depending on the region, and then offering these different types of remedies depending on what part of the world that they are in. Like, for example, if the European Commission only cares about cloud, hey, maybe that's, we know that's what they've submitted for the remedies, but maybe that's all PlayStation gets in the countries in the European Union. Maybe they only get Call of Duty via PlayStation Plus. One of the things, though, they keep in mind with PlayStation Plus, you have to keep this in mind because this is something that PlayStation has said themselves. Whether they're telling the truth or not, we don't know. We don't see the numbers. I'm sure these regulatory bodies have to figure that out themselves as well. Is they essentially said in response to the regulators that the deal that Microsoft is offering them will destroy their business. And they can't accept this on PlayStation Plus because they wouldn't be able to survive with their subscription service if this is something that they decide to accept. That's why they're not accepting the 10-year deal, which again, you have to ask yourself. The other question is, well, why is everybody else accepting the deal, but PlayStation, one of the dominant players in gaming, can't take this deal? If they're so dominant and their business model is so good, why is this going to be the deal that crushes them? It's just an absurd thing to think about from a consumer's perspective. I don't buy it. I don't think PlayStation is being truthful in that. Like, if a 10-year licensing deal to Call of Duty will completely destroy a major part of their business, and they've done something extremely wrong throughout many years, and they've been lying to their customer base forever, because their customer base is the one that always loves to tout first party. This is the reason why PlayStation is so much better than everything else. It's the reason why people go to PlayStation. It's obviously not the case. If it is first party, then if it was the only reason why people play PlayStation, or one of the main reasons people play PlayStation, there wouldn't be this huge issue about one third-party game taking down their entire business. What that tells me is that their first-party lineup is not nearly strong enough to actually support PlayStation enough, that this deal is so important for them to be blocked that if it goes through, they're going to be in a world of hurt. That's what they're making it sound like. So we'll wait and see on all of that type of stuff, because we don't know how 100% that is in terms of truth. Maybe with the FTC documents that if they do come out to the public, maybe we will see more information on that. And I'm talking about the subpoena that Microsoft has served to Sony, that they do have to answer about their third-party deals from 2019 until current. I think there will be a lot of information there that could maybe provide a bit more insight as to all of this type of stuff. And then we move on here to another report here from Midas, who's taking again a report from MLEC saying that Microsoft hopes that the remedy package offered to the EC will put pressure on the CMA. Microsoft has now formally committed to making Activision's portfolio of games, including Call of Duty, available on rival cloud gaming platforms. And we already knew this reading through the remedies that Microsoft had written to the European Commission, where they specifically do say it isn't just Call of Duty. It's going to be Activision catalog of games available on these cloud streaming services. So it's not just about that one game that they're making these remedies for. It's about, who knows, all of the other Activision games that are going to be coming on. But if you're on those streaming services, you're going to be able to still play them, which again, it's a good thing for gamers. It's a good thing for the industry when more people have access to play them. And it's a really smart move by Microsoft, because they're bring your own game services. So you still have to go out and buy those games before you can actually stream them on something like NVIDIA GeForce Now or Booster or whatever. And that means Microsoft is just not holding anybody back from paying money to Xbox, essentially, if they become first-party Xbox game studios. Continues here and says, more striking is the absence of any formal commitment to address key concerns raised by rivals Sony about the deal's impact on its PlayStation and Google about the deal's impact on its Chrome OS cloud-first operating system. And these were things that were brought up as concerns. So we'll see. And I mean, if they're going out specifically, these regulators, to protect the PlayStation console and the PlayStation platform, I think it's very telling as to what they are doing here. And it almost would seem like they aren't looking out for the best interests of the consumer and the gamers. They are looking out for the best interests of that particular platform, because again, at the end of the day, the more access that is provided to these games, the better it is for the market, the better it is for the consumers, and will create more competition, which is always better for everybody. And again, PlayStation, if they're so focused only on their console, to want to continue to protect something that, in my opinion, not that I'm for this, because I'm not the biggest fan of cloud gaming. I don't use it that often. I'd much rather play games natively on my PC or natively on a console. The future of gaming isn't going to include consoles. It is going to be cloud, or at least it's not going to include consoles as much as it is today. It is going to be, I think, more of a minority part in the market, but it's going to be cloud gaming. It's going to be subscription, just like we see with movies and TV shows. So to protect a market of the console market, because PlayStation is so dominant in it, it's pretty much saying we're protecting PlayStation because they have failed to adapt to the changes in the market that are going to be coming in the next 10, 20, 25 years or so. As recently as February 21st, the hearing, the EC still had concerns about those markets. Microsoft's offer comes after intense discussions with officials probing the deal, and the market test should be considered a good sign. Under the terms of its in-depth review, the Commission has until May 22nd to rule on the deal, although it will soon need to circulate a draft decision internally and to national authorities. So that's good info to know, because we do know, again, they changed the date to May 22nd, but maybe some little information will come out here and there before that date, because they have to write everything out, obviously, before that final deadline. They're not going to be writing it on the 22nd, then releasing it. The support of NVIDIA has been key, according to MLEX. So smart move by Xbox, of course. The extent to which Sony would benefit from the remedy on cloud gaming is unclear. Sony's primary complaint has been that Microsoft will remove Activision Blizzard games from its PlayStation, the console specifically, or at the very least degrade their performance on the Sony console to drive its users to the Microsoft Xbox. That appears to have fallen on deaf ears at the EU competition enforcer, and for good reason, I would say, because again, I'm just, as a regular person here, just reading through what Sony has argued. Their arguments don't hold up very well, in my opinion. And why would Microsoft want to degrade a game that they own, where there's a huge user base of people that are going to be playing it? And if that huge user base of people play a degraded version of the game, that's going to spread like wildfire. That's going to hurt the product. It's going to hurt Xbox. And there's just going to be a lot of negativity to their company, which obviously is not what they would want. They would want everyone playing the same thing and everyone spending money and being excited for the next version of that game to come out. And if you degrade it, I don't think that will be as strong. The offer from Microsoft to Sony presumably still remains on the table, so at some point Sony may say yes. In any case, most probably Sony will first shift its attention to the CMA. No doubt Microsoft will have pointed CMA investigators to the EU regulators' latest conclusions on that point. If Microsoft can get traction there and put a dent in the narrative against the deal, that would be no mean feat, but it may not be enough. However, the CMA's last public word on the subject, acceptance behavioral remedies, still remains. None of these circumstances in which the CMA would select a behavioral remedy as a primary source of remedial action in a merger investigation appears to be present. So they still could accept behavioral remedies, but they're saying that the behavioral remedy as the primary source of a remedial action doesn't appear to be present. So there's going to be a lot of stuff going on there with the CMA, and we'll see what that means. Specifically, what that sentence means. Does that mean that they are so focused on a structural remedies? Are they going to force Microsoft to sell off something, sell off a piece of Activision Blizzard? Or are they eventually going to look at the EC and the remedies that were accepted there and then say, hey, okay, this is reasonable, this makes sense, and we're going to go ahead and accept the same behavioral remedies as Microsoft has offered to Europe, and to looking at all the other competition committees out there that have already approved this deal. Let me move on here. And the last thing, responses to some questions. So basically the CMA are killing it come April. It seems the sans total divestment of Activision, because that's how I read this. And that's kind of like, when I read that sentence here, that's kind of how I'm reading it as well. That it just pretty much seems like unless they sell off Activision or something, the CMA is going to try to block this deal. And IDAS response, the report is just quoting the Remedies notice from the CMA February 8th, so nothing new, but it's relevant because it's the most recent public statement from the CMA about behavioral remedies in this case. What are they thinking about this right now? No one really knows. Okay, so that is important. Like he said, that's from that original document, so their thinking may have changed, especially if the EU completely has changed their thinking on blocking this deal. If they go ahead and approve it with the remedies that have been offered by Microsoft, which are specifically cloud remedies, then the CMA may also change their thinking as well. It says the summary of day in both reports would be: Microsoft has officially offered remedies to the European Commission. The remedies only address cloud gaming concerns because it looks like the EC has dropped the concerns about the console and the PC OS markets. Again, that's pretty big. If the European Commission they don't care about the console or the PC OS market anymore, or at least the arguments that have been made, they're saying, hey, Sony, your arguments, they're like, we don't agree with those arguments. Microsoft has done enough by offering all of these remedies, the deals to all the cloud gaming services, that alleviates our concern that they are going to be anti-competitive and try to close off customers because they're providing so much access to these games that they will be receiving if this deal goes through. Continues and says those remedies will be subject to a market test now. Microsoft expects to use those remedies to put pressure on the CMA. And the EC has delayed the provisional deadline for a decision to May 22nd, although it will soon need to circulate a draft decision internally and to national authorities. All in all, I think that it was a pretty good day for Microsoft. We'll see what happens during the rest of March. And there's another response here. Says, I have to say, it's pretty funny reading other forums that think IDAS is the one writing and making up these reports. And I recently saw someone call MLEX a Microsoft propaganda mouthpiece. This acquisition never fails to deliver entertainment. That is something I've seen multiple times. People have no idea that IDAS is literally going to this market analysis website database where stuff gets published. You need a login, you need to subscribe, and then just summarizing those articles here on Reset Era. IDAS isn't coming up with these reports and presenting what he has found out by actually being involved in any of these meetings or anything. It's literally going to MLEX, and this is the actual site here, just so everyone's aware, because I still think a lot of people don't know this, but it's just funny to see so many comments out there where people don't know what MLEX is and thinking that IDAS is actually writing these things. And even if you look on Twitter, there are people that have tried to explain that, but a lot of people just haven't read it. I mean, exactly what MLEX is, it's our investigative news agency is solely focused on uncovering regulatory risk across the globe and is uniquely positioned to provide exclusive real-time market insights, news, and analysis. We closely monitor the activities of governments, agencies, and courts to identify and predict the impact of proposals, decisions, and rulings. MLEX's unique content is developed by our network of journalists across 13 international bureaus. So that's where this information that IDAS is getting, and IDAS is just summarizing it. But it's been a very interesting time. I know there was a lull in this entire thing, and some people for sure now are getting annoyed and don't want to hear any more about this deal. But I have to be honest, over the last 2 months or so, it's been extremely interesting in terms of looking at how these things work. And we're getting a lot of insights in the gaming industry, in the business workings, and we will potentially be getting more if this case goes all the way to August 2nd and the FTC and some documents come out public about Sony's inner workings with their third parties. And we are seeing literally right now, I can't recall last time this has happened that I can at least remember where it's been this public, where we can literally read all of these responses from these major corporations in gaming. We're literally seeing the real life console wars happen right in front of our eyes between Xbox and PlayStation, Sony and Microsoft. But I'm going to leave the video there, guys. Let me know your thoughts on all of this stuff. What do you think is going to happen with this deal? Do you think the CMA is going to look at the European Commission and the remedies they've received and maybe change their mind and accept some behavioral remedies? If you enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up. If you're new, hit that subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.
We'll be right back.